Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in our 30th year of the OCA National Asian Pacific American Corporate Achievement Awards, or CAA. I'm Tu Nguyen, Deputy Executive Director of OCA Asian Pacific American Advocates. Since 1991, OCA has been uplifting Asian Americans who have achieved great career success, but also have a track record of community service. The Corporate Achievement Award celebration is a national platform for both the corporate and Asian American communities to recognize and celebrate these individuals. Typically, this is done at a one-night gala. However, thanks to the wonderful World Wide Web, we decided to further highlight our honorees this year through 2 panel discussions. The theme of the week is Our Time is Now, referencing the current state of our society and the many opportunities we have today to take action. These actions may be different to each individual or institution, but regardless, we must not let this moment pass without pushing the agenda on racial equity and access. Today's panel explores the perspective of an institution's role behind change. How do companies take action? It is my honor to introduce the moderator of our panel today, Rhonda Fields, Assistant Manager of Corporate Giving's DEI initiatives at General Motors. In this role, she serves as the strategic partner to GM's DEI team and helps to execute the long-term strategy for GM's commitment to advance racial and social justice through their philanthropic work. Most recently, Rhonda served as ED at a local nonprofit called Girls on the Run of Southeastern Michigan. Rhonda's background in clinical social work, nonprofit management, and community volunteerism make her the perfect moderator for what I know will be an insightful conversation. We will drop the bios of our panelists, aka our honorees, in the chat box, so you can check them out there. And please submit any questions you have throughout the hour into our Q&A box or our chat box, and Rhonda or I will make sure our panelists get to them all. Rhonda, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, too. I so appreciate the warm introduction, but more importantly, I just want to thank you and the entire OCA team for creating a space such as this panel for all of us to learn and grow and have critical conversations. We appreciate all your hard work, and I am giving you a virtual round of applause over here where I am coming from in Michigan. And so I have the privilege of sharing this virtual stage with 3 people doing incredible, critical work in the advancement of historically excluded communities. As many of you may know, each and every one of these panelists have been nominated by their respective companies for their outstanding achievements. So without further ado, I am going to introduce them with their names and titles. So we have, in no particular order, we have Erwin Tan, Director of Thought Leadership and Health at AARP. We have Joanna Sofer, Principal External Affairs Manager at T-Mobile. And last but certainly not least, we have Sonali Batra, Director of Digital Strategy and Brand Engagement at Walmart. I will do none of them any justice, so if it's okay with each of our panelists, can you please give a brief overview of who you are and your work at your respective companies? And I'll start with Joanna, then we can jump to Sonali and then Erwin.
Hi there, I'm Joanna Diaz-Sofer. Thank you, Rhonda, for that. I work in government external affairs at T-Mobile, and my job, I have the pleasure of working with third-party organizations such as OCA, other civil rights, organizations, education groups, chambers of commerce, on a variety of policy issues such as competition, broadband adoption, accessibility, and also I also have another pleasure of helping the company fulfill their equity and action promises, which I'll talk a little bit about later on during the panel. But it is great to be here today. And thank you so much to OCA, Tu and Ken and the entire team for having T-Mobile and myself here today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joanna. Sonali?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, hi, I'm Sonali Batra, and I'm a Director of Digital Strategy and Brand Engagement at Walmart. I've been with the company now 14 years, and I actually moved to the United States only in 2018, which is when I got engaged with our Asian network here within the company. APAN is what we call it. I serve as a vice chair on APAN, where my current focus really is in elevating our AAPI voice and engaging with stakeholders to make the immigration process simpler for Asians coming into the United States. I will also take this opportunity to use some hashtags to kind of introduce myself, since we are on the topics of hashtags and beyond. So I want to say hashtag Indian Army veteran, hashtag book lover, hashtag global traveler, hashtag shoeholic, and hashtag Bollywood fan. Happy to be here.
Oh, I love all of that. Hashtag thank you, Sonali, for that. And last but not least, Erwin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your impact?
Rhonda, thank you for having me here today. I'm the Director of Thought Leadership Health at AARP, which is I think our country's largest nonprofit with 38 million members, representing people who are 50 and older, and also a broader range of ages as we try to help people live the way they want to as they age. My own background is I'm a physician with fellowship training in geriatric medicine and integrative medicine, and I'm currently one of the tactical leads on our cross-enterprise disparity strategy, where I engage with academic institutions, public health departments, and notable civil rights organizations like our current work with the Morehouse School of Medicine. So thank you very much. And I also have a second grade daughter who hopefully next year will be joining Girls on the Run.
Love it. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all. I want to try to keep this as informal as possible. So if you feel comfortable, Erwin, I know we talked a little bit about background noise in the prior to hopping on. If you feel comfortable, feel free to unmute yourself so we can, again, just communicate as much as we can. And so I am happy to share the space with you, and let's hop right into the questions. And so the first one is, I'm going to aim it or put it towards Sonali, is can you share some of the most memorable ways to you that your company has responded to community issues such as anti-Asian hate or oppression against Black and Brown communities?
Absolutely. So at Walmart, we focus on increasing diversity and equity in the workplace. We strive to have a workforce that actually reflects the communities we serve, and that's something we're extremely proud of. Last year, 55% of our new hires in the US were people of color and half were women. So really definitely proud on those stats there. But more importantly, as we know, during this global pandemic, when unfortunate incidents like the very traumatic murder of George Floyd happened, and separately a sharp rise in anti-Asian hate and violence created trauma for our AAPI communities, our company sprung into action. The one thing that's been extremely memorable for me is how our leadership team, led by Doug McMillan, rallied together for our impacted communities. We had many listening sessions, which is when the company actually culminated in putting out well thought of action plans to support our associates. So internally, I'll just kind of name a few. We had learning programs on race and inclusion, which were introduced in August 2020. And currently, more than 100,000 cumulative learning paths have been completed. And of course, this number just continues to grow. Earlier this week, this curriculum was actually highlighted in Fortune's Change the World list, where we landed on the list for the 7th year in a row. So extremely proud of that. There's also been a lot of grant making in the affected communities. So Walmart and the Walmart Foundation strive to create more equitable opportunities through giving and have invested in change. Last year, we launched a 5-year, $100 million philanthropic commitment to create a new Center for Racial Equity. Some of you may have already read about it, but through this $1 million commitment, the center will seek to complement and extend the societal impact of Walmart business initiatives to advance racial equity within 4 focus areas. Number 1 being finance, number 2, health, number 3, education, and number 4 is the pillar of criminal justice. To date, $17.6 million have already been distributed to different nonprofit organizations. I know this is slightly long-winded, but there's just been so much work that's been happening. So I do want to call out that even for our AAPI community, which we all know was unfairly being blamed for the spread of the virus earlier this year, which is when our CEO spoke up on our behalf and stated, and I quote, "The violence we are seeing against our AAPI neighbors and friends is wrong, unacceptable, and hurts us all." Everyone has the responsibility to stand up and speak out against racism in all forms. It will take all of us to make lasting change, and we are committed to doing our part. So when we hear our CEOs speak up, it just kind of it's a rally for everyone to get together and think about the right ways to make a systemic change. So in that same vein, Walmart and the Walmart Foundation were among a group of organizations that committed a collective $125 million in May 2021 to TAF, the Asian American Foundation. Walmart.org also announced 2 Walmart Foundation grants in April 2021 aimed at supporting AAPI communities. We announced $50,000 to the Center for Pan-Asian Community Services to help serve AAPI needs in Atlanta, and another $100,000 to the Center for Asian Pacific American Women to help build a national program for multicultural women who are combating anti-AAPI activities. So this came very quickly at the heels of the Atlanta murders. So again, aim being just being where the impact is and where the need is felt, and then continue to make small changes, but hopefully impactful changes in the long run.
Yeah. So now you never have to apologize for talking about the memorable ways. I mean, that's what we're here for, and that's the kind of action we want to see. So thank you. Erwin or Joanna, whoever wants to hop in, I'd love to hear a little bit more, and I know everyone on the call would love to hear a little bit more about some of the memorable ways your companies have responded to these issues.
So when I think of AARP this past year, the disparity strategy that crosses our foundation, our membership organization, this cross-enterprise work started last year, and that's where I'm one of the tactical leads. And we're thinking about not only about health, about people's financial security, and also thinking about people's long-term aspirations and making sure that all of that is included in our work. And we're just in the first of 10 years with our first 3-year outcomes planned out already. So I'm very excited about this. And it's not only the work that we're doing across the entire enterprise, it's also who is at the table. So we have a leadership team here at AARP, and we have an executive vice president, and then Kane Williams, who is in a new position, Chief Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer. So when that executive team meets, that very important issue of diversity, equity, inclusion is at the table. Thinking about that song from Hamilton. So those are 2 clear ways in which it's been very important. And finally, on this very important issue of anti-Asian violence, I think like many other organizations, our CEO also talked about this. I'll actually put in the chat and talked about how this is an issue that crosses all communities. And I think the exciting thing about this is that I really feel that the Asian Americans did not feel alone in this. And I think that thinking about responses from our corporate leaders, from my children's school, that it was a broad range of people, especially other people of color, that really have come together. And that is an important muscle that we all need to stretch and exercise and grow.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erwin. Joanna, please, any memorable moments from your company?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rhonda. As a company, we're always, thinking of ways to invest and empower the communities that we serve. So one of the things that I'm most proud of, is that last year, before all the tragedies happened, right? We heard Sonali and Erwin talk about the murder of George Floyd, the pandemic, the uptick in API and Asian hate. Before all of that happened, at the end of 2019, we actually announced a $25 million commitment to underserved communities. And so because we announced it at the end of 2019, some of the work that we did wasn't just reactionary. We kind of had a little bit of a head start on some of this work. And so we could be a little bit more thoughtful about the programs that we were going to be partaking in. Some of these things include digital literacy, wireless for low income, tech entrepreneurship, a wide range of investments that we were going to make in underserved communities. And we're proud of this work that we've done. OCA has been a part of it, and it's been a big commitment to community initiatives, supporting technology, education, and workforce training. But personally, one of the things that's been most special to me in our response to anti-Asian hate is earlier this year, we actually called OCA when things were getting pretty bad in the community. And we asked if they could come do a briefing for our government affairs team. And they came in and they did a briefing called entitled Stop Asian Hate. And it was really incredible. They put together this unbelievable briefing for us about the history of Asians in this country and some of the brutality that the members in the Asian community have faced throughout the history, but also today. And it was really incredible, especially, I grew up in California, and some of the things that they were talking about that have happened throughout history, these horrible, horrible moments, I'd never heard of in my entire life. And that education component is so important, not only for me and my team and others in my company. It's important because it's a good reminder that so much, there's been a lot of good things that have happened and a lot of progress that's been made, but it's to be reminded of the history and to be educated about what's continuing to go on is a good reminder that there's still a lot of work to be done. And that's what makes all of this work so meaningful, the work of Walmart, AARP, and T-Mobile, that the impact that these companies can make. And so a couple of the things that we did, we donated earlier this year in March, $150,000 to stop Anti-Hate. OCA and T-Mobile have worked together to promote digital literacy and bridge the digital divide. One of the great things that we got to do is we actually got to have an OCA intern over the summer come work with us in our virtually in our office. And he actually helped with things like the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, which provides critical resources to people who are having trouble getting connected. And so OCA has been a critical part of that work for years. And we just as an example, over the summer, we got to do that work that was as a response to the pandemic. We also have been working with OCA on mentorship programs, OCA's MAAP program, OCA's B3 program. And then also in other communities beyond the Asian community, we've launched a lot of programs either last year or this year. Most recently in August, we just made a big announcement with LULAC on supporting their Conexiones program, which helps Latino youth on STEM-focused digital literacy. Also, we've been creative in kind of the programs that we've done. And so another program that we just launched with Unidos is, and this is a brand new program born out of, the need to help people during the pandemic, but it's called Latinos in Business. And it's a program that helps aspiring entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs and small business owners to help digitize their businesses so they can survive the digital economy that we're all living in, especially after the pandemic. We've donated, $1 million to the Thurgood Marshall Fund to help HBCU students inside and outside the classroom, but also beyond just doing work with our partners in these incredible programs. A couple of things that we've done internally, we launched our Next Tech Diversity Program, which helps recruit, train, and place diverse candidates for long-term careers as telecom technicians. Right now, if you look at the telecom technician field, it's not diverse at all. These are great jobs. And so we're helping, with long-term career placement in that field. And then, internally, we're, because it's great to do these things out in the community, right? But internally, we have to focus on our employees as well. And so we're focusing on diverse pipeline recruitment to make sure that our employees are having, access to leadership tools to be promoted up to the senior level. But I think one of the most important things that we can do as a company, in my opinion, for these communities is the deployment of our 5G network, which helps underserved communities get access to the digital world, right? And without that, we're going to fall behind if we don't make sure that our communities are connected. And so really these are, and there are several other, programs that we've been doing. Those are the ones I just wanted to highlight. But these are, these are not, this is not just a moment for us. This is a long-term investment. And these are all things that we're being very thoughtful about and making sure that, we're creating long-term investment in all these communities.
Joanna, you really took the words out of my mouth, because one of the things that I kept hearing from each of you is just how intentional each of your organizations, each of your companies have been in serving and supporting the communities and the consumers that you have. And so I'm just floored. And of course, one of the other things that I picked up was just the pride that each of you have in your companies. You know, I'd be remiss to say that working at GM, one of the things I love about it is that it wasn't just action, right? And it sounds like with each and every one of you, it wasn't just words, there was action too. Like, this is important, but let us show you how, let us show you why. And not only did you do the work internally, but it also sounds like each of you brought in external partners to help support the work that you do and serve your communities. And so one of as a follow-up to that, can you tell me a little bit about how your companies have faced these issues that their communities and the consumers have faced, right? So we've talked a little bit about the pride and the amazing things they've done, but how have you faced these issues for your consumers, right? Because these are the people that we want to protect and serve and support and use our products, or, you know, so how do you do that? I'm going to start with Erwin. Can you share a little bit about how your company, how ARP has faced the whirlwind of issues that their communities and consumers have faced?
So our CEO, Joanne Jenkins, wrote a book called Disrupt Aging. And there is a hashtag, Disrupt Aging, that people should look up. And she likes to say 50 is the new 50. And what does that mean? The first 50 is your age. And you are who you are. I'm 51, and I'm a much more patient father today than I could have been in the past, right? And at any age, whether you're 20, 50, or 70, there are things that you are best able to do now than you were able to do in the past or will be able to do in the future. And that second 50 is how society views your age, which is ultimately just a number. And that's what we're talking about. So one of the things that we're trying to do is ask companies to reimagine their products. So when I first started ARP, I had this great opportunity to partner with the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine to sponsor an event on the perceptions of aging and their impact on health. And this was held at the Parsons School of Design Fashion School. And we talked about how your perception of aging can actually sometimes predict how long you'll live and what activities you do. Do you do healthy activities? And that's important because I think as people go into the workplace or they go into a shop, do they see themselves? These issues of identity and representation are intersectional, right? And so the many ways that we are identified, people want to see themselves as being welcome. And that's why we chose the School of Fashion, because one could argue that in some ways fashion produces products that the people who can afford them sometimes can't fit into them, and sometimes the people who can fit into them cannot afford them, and we all end up feeling less adequate. But if thinking of that show, Project Runaway, fashion is supposed to make you feel good about yourself, and that's where all of us, especially consumer organizations, have that power to make people feel good about themselves. Again, empowering people to live the way they want as they age. Another piece that we also are doing through our state offices is Disrupt Disparity. So this is, again, thinking about ways in which we can focus issues of disparities, focusing on what our core strength is that aging and the people who are 50 and older. And they're looking at those intersections. I think we've been able to marshal our state offices and the 38 million members that we have to address those issues through our expertise in aging, but also to make sure that everyone is part of that conversation.
Thank you. Joanna, I'm going to have you hop in. What has T-Mobile done in the face of these issues that their communities and consumers are facing? I know you touched a little bit on some of that pride, I believe, with the 5G network, but can you expand a little more for us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, there's so much, right, to be done. There's so many things that are happening in our country and in our world. And, it's sometimes I think corporations find themselves, trying to figure out where to kind of focus their energies and their investments. But one of the things that's really unique about T-Mobile is that we're actually, we are the most diverse major wireless carrier in the country. Just in September, Bloomberg reported that T-Mobile's workforce is less white and less male than our peers, and that over 60% of T-Mobile's workforce, including myself, identifies as a person of color. And so because of that, and by the way, not only is our workforce incredibly diverse, but our customers are really diverse. We have a very, very diverse customer base. And so because of that, we have a unique perspective, and we have a unique responsibility and a privilege, right, to really be mindful that we're serving the communities that make up our workforce and the communities that we serve. And so one of the things that we're doing is, that helps us with the massive work and investments that we're making is working with our External Diversity and Inclusion Council. We launched it last year, and it's comprised of really incredible men and women who are accomplished in the civil rights community all across the country and represent a diverse set of underrepresented or minority communities. Ken Lee actually serves on our council. And so really what this council helps us do is to invest make sure that we're investing our community dollars in the right places, that we're keeping the right focuses in mind. And they help us with a wide variety of issues like corporate governance, workforce recruitment and retention, procurement, working with diverse suppliers, all sorts of things that can impact our communities in big and little ways. And as I mentioned, Ken Lee serves on this council, and he not only helps guide us through this work, but helps us keep on track, right, to make sure that we're focusing our energies in the right places. We're always finding ways to be bigger and bolder in the work that we do in the community. A great example of this is at the end of last year, we launched a project called Project 10 Million, and it's a $10.7 billion with a B dollar initiative aimed at eradicating the homework gap, right? And we've seen in the pandemic, if you're not connected, students aren't connected, they can't do homework, they can't log into school. And so what this program aims to do is provide free internet access and hotspots to 10 million households across the country over the next 5 years, and to these households who just are not connected. And so, since last year, and this just got announced in September, our CEO just announced that since the launch of last year, we've already connected 3 million children. And so this is really just the beginning of the work that we're going to do, and just an example of ways that companies can be truly impactful, right, and really touch the lives and impact the education and the future of these communities.
Joanna, one of the things you said that stood out to me, I wrote down, was you have T-Mobile feels like they have a unique responsibility and privilege. Like those are some bold words, and it sounds like T-Mobile's doing everything they can to live up to it. So kudos. So Nelly, I'd love to hear from you.
So for us at Walmart, our framework has always been to serve as a store of the community. 90% of Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart. So it really makes sense to me that because we are such an integral part of the community, it is logical that when we learn of issues that are important to our customers and our communities, we often quickly organize and work with public officials, community leaders, and stakeholders to understand the root cause of the issue and take steps to help. So each scenario, of course, will be uniquely different, as we know. A few recent examples that I can quickly highlight is our recent community engagement during Hurricane Ida, for which, I think there's still a remnants of Hurricane Ida in Louisiana. And then also the support we continue to provide during this ongoing Afghan refugee crisis. It also kind of hits home because, they are Asians coming into the United States. So really, what can we do for that community coming in here? Speaking of Ida again first, so together Walmart, Sam's Club, and the Walmart Foundation, we committed up to $10 million to support the Hurricane Ida resources that were needed on ground immediately. This is something that we continue to do as a company, where we can support for natural disaster response and recovery efforts, because that's a moment when you're really homeless, helpless, no food. What do you do? So just being there, that's our first response, and that's been core to Walmart. But closer home, when I said Afghan refugee crisis unfolding, our company was of the opinion, okay, this is something new, but let's just put our heads together and just see what we can do to help. That was the only intention. First off, what do we do to help? And we actually were fortunate because we have such a diverse workforce. We know we have a lot of veterans who actually served, as when they were in active service at Afghanistan, but who are now store managers and just associates in the stores. We had their experience to say what we think should be provided to the refugees coming in. We also have just Afghanistan nationals who came into the United States who are now citizens here, but they are proud of people from Afghanistan. So we actually relied on their cross-cultural experience from both these groups of veterans and Afghan associates to support the refugees, service members, and one another, because it was a tough time for people who probably saw and again, that's a big conversation, but just seeing the situation unfold in Afghanistan. So it was just, we're here to help. What can we do? That was the spirit. And additionally, we did commit $1 million to 3 non-profit organizations supporting these incoming Afghan refugees. But in the spirit of course, always keeping a focus on diversity and inclusion, we have 9 associate resource groups within the company. And of course, each have their own place, but I think it's just raising the level of awareness that D&I is central today, more so than ever. So yeah, just keeping the focus on is where all of us have focused.
I love it. Thank you. One thing I want to point out is our chat is very active. I love that we have a lot of T-Mobile carriers here, Joanna. We have some AARP members, Erwin. We have some huge fans of Walmart, Sonali. So definitely thank you for putting that in the chat. And again, feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A, or you can put it in the chat. We'll definitely call on them. I do want to point out, we did get a question about AARP. And so the comment was, we really appreciate AARP's many webinars about COVID-19 and caregiving during the pandemic. How else does AARP educate the community about resources for anti-Asian hate or any other social issues? Erwin, you're on mute.
When I posted the comments that of Joanne Jenkins, I did not send it to everyone, so I'm going to do that right now. And I think I think we serve a large number of viewpoints, and I think but what we do central, no matter what, is we stay true to our values, right? And I think that's part of I think what I'm really proud of the organization. It is a social mission organization. And so through these statements and through the work that we do in local communities, AARP has been very much focused on this and making sure that people have access to the latest information, but also narrowcasting the information to speak to the needs of very specific communities. And whether I've talking to organizations that represent the National Medical Association that historically represents Black doctors, for example. I've had the opportunity to speak with that organization, speaking on issues of LGBTQ older adults during the pandemic. I've been able to speak on webinars directly speaking to that. We've had these teletown halls that have addressed our Asian American members and asking issues, they answer issues specifically to them, and we'll receive questions. I've had the opportunity to talk to people in Arkansas who represent the Marshallese community, which was disproportionately affected early on by the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think that inclusiveness is key to this. And another way that we are hoping to address this issue is that we're a primary sponsor of the National Academy of Medicine's Global Roadmap for Healthy Longevity. Victor Zhao, the president of the Academy, chose healthy longevity as his principal, as the first grand challenge. And that roadmap, which will be a consensus report, will be released probably early 2022. And central to that will be this issue of equity, because we know, for example, how the COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the disparities that pre-existed this pandemic and amplified that. And the result has been tragic, with disproportionate impact for many communities, to include, for example, patients and employees of nursing homes. So those are ways in which I think we have kept the many communities we serve, but including the Asian American community, central to our work these past 500 days and beyond. And looking forward to how do we not return to where we were, but build a more equitable society that includes all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erwin. Thank you. T-Mobile, Walmart, AARP, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't add GM. I know all of these companies are doing phenomenal work. My question to you, it wasn't, we didn't give it to them ahead of time, so you have to forgive it. I can give my panelists a few minutes to think through it, but I promise it's an easy question. What advice would you give to an employee at any level who are saying, I love my job, I love my company, but they can do more. I know they can do more. I know that they can do more around responding to social justice issues. What kind of advice would you give them? Like, who should they talk to? What could be their next step? Joanna, you're nodding first, so I'm gonna go to you if that's okay.
Well, I love this question, Rhonda, because I do feel like we hear this, a lot, and sometimes people just don't know where to go for the next step. But employee resource groups cannot be emphasized enough. And I know that Sonali and Erwin also mentioned their resource groups. We also have the APAN network at T-Mobile, and we'll never find more excitement, more enthusiasm, better ideas, and just more energy in these resource groups. And they're a great way to get involved in your company. Usually they have an executive sponsor. I know at T-Mobile they do. And so that kind of helps with, funding and planning for whatever celebration that you're going to do that month. But it goes beyond just like celebrating, Asian Heritage Month or Hispanic Heritage Month. These employee resource groups can be incredibly impactful in influencing programming and funding from the company. And also engaging with organizations like OCA. I know OCA does a ton of work with engaging ERGs, some of which we've supported. And so I just think that, the first thing that you can do is get involved in your ERG.
Thank you, Joanne. So Sonali, would you like to add on? What can an employee do who's like, hey, I love this company. What's my next step?
Yeah, I'd actually echo what Joanna said. I mean, we, even in APAN here, continue to build on our communications, because it's for those associates who are like, okay, you're doing A, B, and C, but you should be doing more, or I want to do more. So we realized that we really need to up our communication. We use a lot, Workplace by Facebook, which is a platform which is internal to the company, but that kind of keeps our community engaged and connected. It's a safe place for people to converse with each other. So we really rely on Workplace, keeping people engaged. And then eventually down the line, of course, there is the corporate associate base, and then there's a huge base that we have in the field, in the stores. So slowly, we do want to actually get into the stores as well through our ARGs. At this point, only our Serves ARG, which is actually our veterans ARG, they are active in the field, getting to a point where we can everybody in the company talk about the same things. But and also to the point that Joanna made, it's not only about a special celebration month, for example, Asian Heritage Month in May. Yes, we do specific programming at that point, but how do you keep the drumbeat on? And so people know that there's stuff happening, there's action happening. I think that's been our focus. Just communicate at all the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Erwin, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think the employee resource groups are fantastic and really do sort of exemplify the value of multi-generational teams. There's evidence to suggest that when you have teams that are diverse with different viewpoints, and that includes age, that they operate better. And I think there have been time and we've had great examples personally where I've been able to be mentored or mentor others. And sometimes the mentors are younger than the mentees, and that's great too. But it's really thinking about how we can utilize the strengths of people from from within our communities and of different ages as well simultaneously.
Thank you. Admittedly, I am newish to GM, and I can echo the support of ERGs. When I first started, it was almost like a virtual hub, right? Like these were different groups, and some of them were communities I personally were a part of, but I was an advocate of and an ally of. And so just for them to welcome me to the team, it was like, okay, we can actually do some work here. So I love that we brought these critical groups into this discussion. So one of my last question is a little off script again. This is the last one that's off script, and it's an easy one again, I promise. And then we'll take some questions from the chat as well as Q&A. By trade, I studied social work. So one of the things we're routinely taught and learn is self-care. And for those of us just professionally, but also doing this impactful work of serving and supporting marginalized and historically excluded communities, it can be extensive, it can be exhaustive. How do you take care of yourselves? Erwin, I know I'm gonna ask you first, only because you mentioned before we got on this was that one of your proudest accomplishments, which I absolutely love, is being a dad. And so I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that may play into a little bit of your self-care. But how do you take care of yourselves in this kind of work?
Well, I think I consider myself lucky that I've been able to work from home and that I work for a company that is very much interested in caregiving of parents, of spouses, and of children. But one of the things I've missed the most about these past 500 days with homeschooling my children has been missing my children, right? And now that they're back in school, except for today when they happen to be, in hybrid, I get to miss my children, which means commuting with them. So I was, sitting way too much. They say that sitting is now the new smoking, but we have a commute now. So in the morning, I run about 2.5 miles round trip because my daughter, who's in second grade, scoots. So, and she's getting better and she's getting faster. So that's my 2.5 mile run jog in the morning. In the afternoon, I bike to pick up my son. My wife and I switch out on that. And then in between, there's the dog, right? I used to be a member at a gym, and I never went to the gym. But when I walk downstairs and see those puppy eyes, I know if I don't walk, there will be consequences. So no matter what's happening, if it's raining or not, because sometimes I have to drive the kids, the dog, she gets walked. So those are examples where I think thinking about the value of our relationships is key. And we're all very busy, but self-care is critical. And one of the things that where I find in my previous research at Johns Hopkins, when I was faculty there, we studied the health benefits of volunteering. And we studied this model called Experience Corps, which plays older volunteers in the Baltimore City public school system. And we studied their health benefits. And they were very similar, but it was the social relationship. I want to stay at home, but I promised that child I would be there. That causes people to leave their homes, to walk, to go to these kindergartens where these rapidly moving objects who are crossing your path called kindergartners, and you have to shift your weight, you have to sit down in chairs that are too small, but it's sort of like Tai Chi, you're exercising those quads, but it's all driven by those social connections. And I think that's what I've seen in a lot of the examples that our fellow panelists have talked about, is that those social connections within the building, those employee resource groups, it's the connections across our communities, the many ways that we identify ourselves in multiple ways, makes us all richer and helps lead us to more physical activity, more social activity, and when you're trying to teach a kid how to read, more cognitive activity as well.
Thank you, Erwin. It sounds like, I didn't see who it was, but someone said this is the argument they're taking to their household to get a dog. So I love it. We're over here giving some help. Joanna, Sonali, whoever wants to go next about how you take care of yourselves. We'd love to hear.
Well, I can just first take off from the statement on getting a dog and exercise. My daughter would be a big fan of yours, Irvin. She's been trying. She's in 7th grade, and her elder one just went to college. So she's like, I'm all alone. Let's get a dog. But well, that's a conversation for later. But yes, I think also the social connection is so important for me. I'm a hardcore people's person. I mentioned as a hashtag that I previously worked in the Indian Army, again, with people, you're always with people. Coming to a big Walmart corporate headquarters, always surrounded with people. And when this pandemic happened, you were all suddenly just sitting in these 4 walls and there was no way to even meet and see people. And I quickly realized I still need to continue that human connection. So for me, it's that mental connection. We found ways to do virtual happy hours with the team, as if the weather was better, just meeting outdoors safely. My family still lives in India. There was no way to travel back. Even now, that's not really so much true. Still, the world is still kind of in a not full lockdown, getting better, but it's been a year, more than a year, where milestone birthdays happened. How do you continue to feel that there are connections? So again, there's a time zone difference. How do you work through that? Because I would have hated to miss celebrating those events. So really, you work around, do timings that work for different parts of the world, get people together, virtually feed people cake, but talk to friends. That's my way of staying well. It's more mental for me, and yeah, thanks to technology, I think it hasn't been that bad.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanna. How do you take care of yourself?
Well, really quickly on the dog comment, because I'm not going to let this one go. I'm fully supportive of dogs. If you do want to get a dog for exercise, do not get an English bulldog. I have an English bulldog. He does not exercise. He's just a big, fat, lazy man. So by the way, they're the best dogs, but not for exercise. Anyway, I really love this question, Rhonda, because I think, and I saw it last year and I continue to see it this year. People of color and corporations, I think particularly, have gone through a lot in the last 2 years because they've seen their communities go through a lot, and all of us here, all 4 of us, we have a lot of, we're very blessed to be doing these jobs and to have access to this kind of work and to be able to make decisions on community investment and work with community partners. It's truly a privilege that a lot of people in our community do not have. And so because of that, I've seen so many people just become so exhausted because they're helping, with whatever they can in the company, respond, helping other employees go through things. And it is just in general exhausting. Like last year, I felt like every single study I read, it was like, you open the news and there was like another hate crime. And then I would read a study and it's like, Latinos are at the bottom, are being disproportionately affected. Black and brown communities are being, and you just see it and it's just like, it's exhausting and it gets you down. And so I think specifically for people of color and corporations, it's really important to take care of yourself. One of the things that I was doing for a little while was I wasn't really scheduling any social things on the weekends because I'm so exhausted from the weekdays that I thought, okay, if I do nothing over the weekends, I can recharge. But what I've learned over the last 6 months to a year, as things have started to open up, as I've really added things to my social calendar, really scheduled things on my social life, whether it's going to a concert or seeing our friends or whatever it is, it's actually given me more energy. So even though I think, okay, I have this full packed calendar this weekend, all the stuff to do, it actually energizes me because it refuels my tank for the week to go out and go do, the things that we do for work. The other thing that I want to mention that's really great for mental health is finding your allies internally. We all want to do like the most for our community and help the most. And right, we all feel that responsibility and we cannot do it by ourselves. And so another thing that's been really critical for me and my mental health is just being, finding the allies in the company that are on the same page as me and that are going to help me do this work. Because we can't do it by ourselves, right? It's going to take a whole team. So those are the couple things that I've done and I've learned, right, over the last couple of years how to manage.
Absolutely. Thank you. So that is the end of some of the questions we already knew may be headed our way, except for the few that I put in. Then we do have some Q&As from the audience. And so too, let me know if we have any from our Facebook community as well, but I'll try to get to as many of them as time is allowing for us. The first one that I was able to catch was that all of the panelists spoke about the funding of the Asian within the Asian community. Do you see the Asian community represented in the higher ranks of your respective companies? I'm gonna go, who's not making eye contact? I'm just kidding. So
Rhonda, I'm happy to answer this one. Yes, of course, you know, the numbers continue to tell a story, and our recent mid-year CDEI report just came out. And people can go to our corporate site to kind of see the numbers, but at the very higher levels, when we say VP and above, we actually on the Asian community have, and last when I read it, it was, I think, touching a 10% at the higher leadership level. So I think we and it is progressing. So again, it is again a journey, but yes, we are getting better. We know, I think in the US, our stats for Asians is what, overall 5 to 6%, if I'm not wrong. And so if we see a number which is touching 10%, I mean, that is progress.
Absolutely. Thank you. Joanna, Erwin, either of you would like to hop in on this question?
No, I'm happy to. So we do actually have Asian representation on our senior leadership team, which is great. We know we can always do better, and that's actually having. You know, I mentioned we're a diverse company. We're the most diverse wireless carrier in the country. One of the things that we're working on, that equity and action plan that I talked about, that 5-year plan to really make meaningful change inside and outside the company, is actually creating a pipeline for diverse talent right up to the leadership level. And so the Asian community is, of course, included in that. And that's something that we have the privilege of working with Ken Lee and OCA on, and we're going to always, you know, strive to do better on. But, you know, currently we do have Asian representation on our senior leadership team and in some of the higher ranking levels of the company. So we are proud of that, but we know always, you know, we can always do better.
And I can think of a number of vice presidents at ARP who are Asian American, and one of them I think is I just wanted to point out is Daphne Kwok, who has a long affiliation with previous affiliation with you know, with Organization for Chinese Americans, and also just has been personally also one of those mentors even before I joined ARP, meeting at a conference and networking with her. I think those are key examples where we need more leaders, right? Because those are the people who can help people at the various stages of their career and point people to new opportunities. So again, my hat off again to Daphne for all she has done personally to help me, and how her work exemplifies why we need more leaders like her.
Thank you. Okay, a few more questions, like maybe one or two. So I see a question that says, glad to hear T-Mobile engaged OCA, and I believe, I'm going to put words here, I know Sonali and Erwin both mentioned that they've engaged OCA, and I speak that GM as well, to educate their internal team on AAPI issues. Is there an effort from any of your companies, GM included, to educate the public community, your consumers, on such issues? So is there an effort to educate consumers on such issues? So I can speak a little bit from GM's perspective, in just the sense that, again, being relatively new to GM, absolutely. One of the things that I've admired about the company since I've started with them is that they are going to utilize partners who have done the work, who are doing the work well, and who have historically served these excluded communities, right? Like those are the partners that they're routinely looking to engage with, because they know that, you know, that's where the thought partners are. That's where the people who are actually, you know, doing the critical work. So I would say absolutely, and in various ways, they're going to let the consumers know, whether it's through marketing or communications or just really just internal work with employees as well. So Sonali, Joanna, or Erwin, do any of you want to add on to that question?
Yeah, I can think of the work that I did with Daphne Kwok in her role in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion around COVID-19. I was managing a series of blogs that were coming out of our policy research and international team. And many of them were thought leadership blogs, but others were more direct to consumer. And what we did was we made sure that those blogs were translated to the common languages for Asian Americans who are monolingual. And we also, tapping into Daphne's understanding of the Asian American community, were able to reach out to have conversations with media that specifically served specific language groups as well. So I think and our role is more specific in that where we serve members and the larger population of people who are 50 plus, and also others who are stakeholders like millennials who are caregivers. So a lot of the work that we've done around this issue of caring, taking access to care for issues around COVID has been thinking about the caregivers themselves, who may often be younger. So again, it's having those strong partners in leadership positions that has been critical in allowing me to leverage the work I do to make sure that it serves all communities across the board. And that's part of the other thing, is that the strong diversity, equity, inclusion work allows us to work as allies across across groups, and that makes us all stronger and elevates our voices.
Absolutely. Well, it is 4:57, and I know we have to close around 4:58. One thing I want to, so I apologize for those questions we weren't able to get to. I do want to note one thing that Ken just said. He said, I live by the motto that all of the panelists are giving back to the community through this panel. If you give open hands, you will receive because your hands are open. And I just want to say it has been a privilege to share this space with you, but not just the panelists, but also everyone in this who has been participating, who is providing questions. We are thankful, and we thank everyone who is doing this critical work. And so I'm going to actually hand it back over to Tu, and she is going to get close out with remarks. But again, thank you, Joanna, Sonali, and Erwin, for your time, talents, and treasures. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you again to all of our honorees, T-Mobile represented by Joanna, Sonali, and Erwin for being with us today despite your busy schedules. Please tune in tomorrow again at 4 p.m. Eastern for a follow-up panel to this one with 3 other honorees on how individuals can get involved and stay involved in their company and communities. I know we just touched on that a little bit, but you'll hear for some other perspectives and hear some more inspiring stories on how to even get an Asian ERG started at your company, right? So yeah, this panel was recorded and it will be available on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Just search up OCA National. And like many of the comments and like our panelists said, definitely follow these folks and their companies for the great work that they do and to get more information on their resources as well. And again, I just appreciate everyone for being here with us today. Thank you and see you tomorrow.